crossroads. This is my Prague Diaries, and nothing remotely touristic today. It is February 24th, the day Russia invaded Ukraine. And I was planning on, I filmed quite a bit of stuff, and I've got plenty to show you. But I happened upon a protest demonstration, and I'd like to show you a little bit of that. And this happened tonight in Prague. It wasn't that big as protest demonstrations go, maybe a couple thousand people. Nevertheless, I think you'll learn something from this. And if you're the kind of person who prays, you should really pray for the people in Ukraine, and you should really pray for yourselves as well. Because this isn't just a little thing. This isn't the Middle East. This isn't somewhere in Southeast Asia. This is Russia invading Ukraine, which is right next door to Poland, which is directly above, Russia is directly above Georgia, and there have already been a war back in 2008 with them. So I'm not going to get into talking about what I think about all this as much as I'm going to just show you bits of this demonstration. I was supposed to be on a flight on my way to Tbilisi on March 6th that was going to go straight through Kiev. And I started to get that feeling that I better do something about that. Americans were ordered out of the country, and somehow I felt that being a passenger in the airport, even though I don't really consider that seeing a country, would be not the best place for me. So I called up and canceled and rebooked my passage on Pegasus airline, or Pegasus, Turkish airline that goes through Istanbul. Seems safe for now. And then today, February 24th, we got the news. I woke up to the news that it had happened, that there had been attacks in Ukraine, and specifically in Kiev, but in other places as well. And there had been thoughts that this is how Putin was going to do it, that essentially he wanted certainly all the Russian parts of Ukraine back. And he certainly has proved that he's willing to do whatever, including face the ire of the rest of the world in order to do that. And this sparked huge panic. People leaving Kiev and other Ukrainian cities and towns for parts west. But I've heard that even in Lviv, which is in the kind of the capital of the western area of Ukraine, there have been sporadic bombs and such like that. So we've just entered very serious times, which is really strange because we all thought COVID was very serious. But the truth is, this is something of a different order of magnitude and can lead to very dire consequences. I think this photo here kind of shows the emotional impact and the impact upon real life human beings who are being impacted. This woman obviously in tears, waiting to get a train going west out of Kiev. And I have a very good friend in Georgia who's half Ukrainian, and her family on her mother's side is on Ukraine. And she has a couple of relatives fighting, and and has asked me for prayers. And It's just, I can tell this is hitting her very hard because she would go to Ukraine once a year to visit them. So this is, a lot of people are comparing this to 1939 and Hitler, but in the Czech Republic, they think about 1938 and when the demands were placed on Munich to surrender the German parts of what was then Czechoslovakia. And as I was walking home after a fruitful day of photography, going to the Strohov Monastery and the Petrin Tower and the area up on top of the big hill there, which I'd never been to before, I heard these sounds coming, and I said, I bet that's Czechs protesting. And so I followed along. And sure enough, it was indeed Czechs protesting. I couldn't tell immediately because everyone wasn't carrying signs. But I would see signs eventually, most of them very much, not so much anti-Russian signs as anti-Putin signs. And I feel like the Czechs understand that this is something that can't be allowed to go on. Because the truth is, guess what country is pretty close to Ukraine? Well, the Czech Republic is, for one thing, and Slovakia actually touches it. And even more worrisome is for Poland, because they touch Ukraine. And the Poles really, really have no love for the Russians after what happened in after World War II with communism. And the Poles will fight, and that's absolutely certain. So you can see these signs here, kind of mocking Putin, but also basically saying, look, this guy is doing something, and it strikes us as being very familiar. And I would hate to think that Biden is our Chamberlain. And in fact, I think in many ways he's probably worse than Chamberlain because, I mean, I don't think he's playing with a full deck. Do you? I just have no faith in his or his administration's ability to carry this out. And there was a recent tweet from Stephen King saying, it's a good thing he's doing it now and not during Trump, where it's actually the other way around. Putin's very smart. He wouldn't do it during Trump because he couldn't predict Trump's actions. But after the Afghanistan thing, yeah, he can predict Trump that Biden isn't going to do much or doesn't know what to do. I think I was heartened to see this, and I thought to myself, we need to see more of these protests. But truthfully, there's only one country we really need to see protest, and in massive waves. And that country, of course, is Russia. Because, quite frankly, if all the Poles and all the different Slavic peoples and all the everybody around the world was to protest, except perhaps China, the Russians wouldn't care. It's just the Russians, and Putin would just basically say, hey, came upon a moment here that was quite touching, where obviously a group of Ukrainians was here carrying a large Ukrainian flag and singing. I don't know what song this is. If you know, go ahead and write it down in the comment section, but singing a Ukrainian anthem. And it was just touching to see that. I am, of course, part Polish and part Ukrainian, as well as Norwegian and Scottish, but the Ukrainian and Polish part of me is very much at one with the concerns for what is going to happen. And eventually I got up to the front of the march and saw the sign they had. And the sign, the main protest sign at the front of the march, basically is absolutely comparing Munich and Hitler to Ukraine and Putin. And for the Czechs, this isn't a matter of abstract thought. Many people can remember the communist years. Some people can actually even go back and remember the World War II years. Very few are left from that. But still, the idea that this is happening again is something they take very seriously. But the real question is, what are the people of the present going to do about it? And I don't mean just going and fight wars. It's just a question I'm going to leave right there. So there you are. These are serious times. COVID was winding down, and it just seems like we needed a little something else, and we got it. And it couldn't happen at a worse time for the state of the world. But I'm not going into the politics of it. Not here, anyway. This is Byrne for Georgian Crossroads saying, Kagad ik avi, which means be well, and you will need to be well in these times.